Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me, Caleb Mitchell of More Important Issues, co-host of More Important Issues, a very good Tennessee volunteer sports podcast that you should go subscribe to if you are not already. Caleb, good evening, sir. How are you?
Doing good. We've made it halfway through Oklahoma week, so I'm halfway to being really good. But I'm fired. I told you, I said it's a good week. I guess I should have just said it's an exciting week right now.
Mm-hmm.
Outcome determines good. I know I'm a grown man, but like a child, my emotions are determined by how my favorite team does. So we'll see.
Oh, I mean, I'm right there. Like I almost lost my voice Monday night with the Falcons. I'm an Atlanta guy, and like I think they had Next Gen Stats had Atlanta's chance of coming back and winning that game against the Eagles when they got the ball at the final possession inside 2 minutes. It's like 0.07% chance of beating the Eagles at that point. It's crazy town. And
Joe's
they obviously
Eagles
go
fan.
and do it. One of the best wins, and the Falcons hit like just unbelievable. Like I lost my mind. It was unbelievable.
You probably being a fan, you probably didn't watch the Manning cast on Monday. Have you seen the 2-minute drill, the final drive though yet of the Manning cast?
No.
Is
it with Matt Ryan? Is it the one with Matt?
Matt's on it, and Peyton's dialed into the 2-minute drill. It's a really fun, however long that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and check that out.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Twitter and watched it because I didn't watch the Manning cast Monday night.
And shout out to my wife. She called it when I was like, I don't feel good. And because I do the whole standing up. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm now at a point where I stand as I watch games. When I'm nervous, I'm just a stander at the television and just like pace around. Like I'm just standing, staring. And she was like, no, they're going to win. And I was like, I don't know. What about this game makes you think the Falcons are going to win this game? But I appreciate your optimism. And of course, she was right. So shout out to the Sports Renaissance woman. Also here, producer of More Important Issues, Joe Niblick. Joe, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. I'm fired up. It's finally like a big weekend. It's been culminating. I've been itching. Like you got football, and then you're like, I'm happy, and now it's like you finally get a test and get to shut everybody up, hopefully. So I'm fired up.
It's one of those weeks where, hey, you wanted this, Vol fans. Like you've been waiting for this moment. You don't get to like cower a little bit this week where you're like, I don't know, I'm a little nervous now. It's like, no, you've been waiting for this. This game has been circled for so long. Obviously this is college game day coming here. We thought that was a strong possibility when you looked at the slate. Like you thought maybe Michigan, USC could get it, but Michigan going down early, it seemed like it became pretty obvious that they were going to be going to Norman for this one. But now that we're in the middle of this week and just doing so much digging and thinking about how this game is going to go, before we even get into Oklahoma, 72 hours is when we usually tape this on these weekly shows here. Caleb, what are you still thinking about from the win on Saturday and this 3-0 start for Tennessee? What's been the most prevailing thought here through 3 weeks?
There's not a whole lot to take away from Saturday, in my opinion. Certainly not in terms of production that you saw. You're not looking. I mean, I guess if you want to try to like dig into players and grab someone, I think it's Deshaun Bishop has cemented himself as RB2 in the absence of Cam Selton. That's probably my biggest takeaway in terms of what we saw on the field, trying to decide who's playing better football, that kind of thing. It's just Kent State was a bad opponent, and hate those games, but you got to play them, and Kent State's got to fund their athletic department somehow, so we do it. The one team takeaway I've gotten from it though is this team is focused. Obviously, we can't say if this team is great or not, but in the 3 games so far this season, they have done things that great teams do. And part of that is going out and against a weaker opponent, taking care of business, leaving no doubt. It's what did Josh Heupel say? A faceless, nameless opponent. Mm-hmm. You just go out and you play the guy across from you and you take care of business. And the team's done that now 2 weeks, 3 if you count NC State, who I'm glad they were top 25 and we beat them, because I'm not so sure how their year will shake out. But we'll chalk that one up to Josh Heupel's 9th top 25 win in his short career at Tennessee, which, little quick fun fact I've looked up. Do you know how many Tennessee had between 2009 and 2020?
One.
Butch had to have gotten.
He got his fair share.
Yeah,
he got a decent amount.
I'm gonna say 6.
It was 9.
9.
So Josh
okay.
is now. I thought it was 8. I missed one. I think I missed Nebraska bowl game when I went back and counted. So
Okay.
it's 9-9 right now. But obviously Josh Heupel's 3 games into year 4. So quite the difference those coaching staffs have made.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel any worse than I do before I don't feel any worse after Kent State. I don't necessarily feel any better. That is the one thing I'll say though, is I think that is just another kind of check mark. Is this team great? TBD, but we can check mark that box that they've taken care of business so far against lesser opponents.
You want another stat when it comes to just the luck of the draw here in scheduling. Do you know who led college football in scoring in 2020?
I would think. Was that Alabama? Was that
Kent State? The Golden Flashes led college football, FBS, in scoring in 2020.
wow?
Sean Lewis had that thing humming. Then he goes to
Yeah.
Colorado, and it doesn't obviously work out there. He fired in the middle of the year. Now he's head coach at San Diego State. But yeah, like Tennessee was just, they luck out. You just never know when you book these games. You're like, what? Because I think there's just so much turnover, and there's so much that can change so quickly with these G5 programs that, like, hey, you Notre Dame caught Northern Illinois in a year when they are
Right.
they have G5 potential. Tennessee gets Kent State winning the worst team in the FBS. Like, there's only so much you can do. Or you could just be like Wake and just like back out of some big time back and forth here. Side note, Ole Miss, those new camo helmets, very good. Very good. I'm all about Ole Miss becoming Oregon of the SEC. Smart marketing. You got to find ways to stand out and compete with the big dogs here year over year. I'm here for it because I know some people were like, oh, Ole Miss, what are they doing? Their other stuff's so good. It's like, these are all bangers. I don't know what people are looking at here. Maybe I'm just alone. I don't know if y'all feel the same, but I'm like, I love all the Ole Miss looks. Every color scheme and helmet uniform combination is a banger to me. I don't know if you feel the same.
Not a camo guy.
Okay.
So I haven't seen him yet. So I just normally not a fan.
Yeah.
I will say
It's not camo. It's blue and like the off.
Okay.
It's like camo with the different shades of blue. It's like the powder blue with the navy blue.
Gotcha. I will say for them, they really back themselves into the greatest uniform colors in the world. Like, I don't know if they've officially gone to the powder blue or not. They should go back to it.
Yeah.
Powder blue is. I went to a high school that was navy and red. I love it, but there's that Ole Miss blue and that Ole Miss red is by far one of my favorite color combinations.
I'm here for it. And they're wearing them against Oklahoma actually, because who we're talking about here. Joe, what are you still thinking about from the first 3 weeks going into Oklahoma? What's been your prevailing thought here?
I mean, kind of like Caleb, there's not much you can draw out of it, but I think that we've been able to see more depth than what really any of us thought before the season started. I didn't think we'd be seeing this far into the pits of the roster. So like you said, it's kind of hard to judge what you're going to be able to do with your main guys off of the talent you've played so far. But 100%, I feel a lot more confident moving into it that we're a lot deeper we've been in previous years, which just makes you feel a lot more confident, you know. I mean, I think there's been prevailing confidence in the past 3 weeks. Again, it doesn't matter who you play. Like, when you look that solid and put together and really moving fluidly, like Caleb said, but when you also smack depth on top of that, it's hard to not be like, okay, I have reasonable belief to back up my insanity that Tennessee is going to, go undefeated this year.
It's also kind of like if you remove the Tennessee, the Power T, the nameplate, everything, and you just looked at the results of these first 3 games and you just slapped Georgia or Texas logo on it, everyone would be like, holy God. Like, what?
Right.
This is the national title favorite. But because it's Tennessee, you're like, I need more. I'm not ready to do this yet. But I mean, I think it's interesting. The numbers continue to skew in a positive direction for Tennessee. I mean, they pass Georgia in FPI, so they're now at number 4. Georgia falls to number 5. I think Georgia has real offensive problems. David Pollock, alum, talking about how he sees a lot of good players on Georgia's offense, not a lot of great. And that's losing 2 first-round pass catchers in Lab McConkey and Brock Bowers this offseason. Not a lot of guys who can scare you out wide. I'm not saying I'm ready to predict Tennessee goes to Athens and wins, but this is the most gettable I think Georgia's been under Kirby Smart in several years. You see Quinn Ewers banged up. We'll see what that looks like. He hasn't been able to go for a full season yet. I mean, Arch looked good, but it's a big spot. We don't know what Arch is going to look like over a bigger sample size. Alex Golish took Alabama to the end, even with the final score not really matching up with how that game was going. Alabama very gettable, especially on that offensive line and in that secondary. So I just think, Vol fans, if you're nervous right now, you've just got to lean into, I think they're just elite in the 2 most important spots in the sport, which is at quarterback and on the defensive line. I think the fact that Nico hasn't had to do a lot through 3 weeks is huge for them. And I think that the defensive line and James Pierce doesn't have a sack and they are controlling these games should scare everybody. James Pierce hasn't played his best ball yet. A lot of guys in this defensive line haven't played their best ball yet. Nico definitely hasn't played his best game yet. And Tennessee's 3-0 and are just obliterating everybody. Like, that's just got to be the most terrifying part about what Tennessee's ascent looks like here. And another person involved here that I want to ask you guys about is Dylan Sampson. Do you think, let's fill in the blank. Dylan Sampson is the most special Tennessee back since when, Joe?
Oh, I can go 2 ways with that, man. I don't know. I said last year I saw flashes of Alvin Kamara in him, not even to rival the number 6, but just the vision he has when he seems to see the gaps better than I think we've had in several years. I mean, Tennessee's had great running backs and has produced great talent, but I mean, I think he sees a hole better than anybody we've had since Kamara. The ability to kind of pause and wait and not rush into something, but kind of take the second to view it. And manipulate the blocks and be able to find those gaps. That's really what sticks out to me.
Yeah, and I think, Caleb, when you look at what he's doing, he's patient. Like Deshaun Bishop, his best thing is he's patient. Like, he's just such a natural running back. He's just got so many carries. Like, the dude carried the ball 9,000 times at Carnes. He's pretty ready to go. He's pretty comfortable in the running back room. But with Dylan, I think, to me, the most surprising thing and what makes him so different than every other hypo running back to this point is that he really is a Swiss Army knife. Like, he's so comfortable in space. He's so comfortable catching the football. He's so comfortable with the shovel pass. He's comfortable being a back who can go 3 straight series, regardless of how much he's used early on. Like, I just don't think we've seen a back like Sampson in the hypo era. And I did not, I'm going to be fully just open book here. I did not see this coming. I thought there would be a drop off from Jalen to Dylan. I mean, Dylan's got 9 TDs and we're through 3 games. Like, it's bonkers what Dylan Sampson's doing to this point. 7 yards to carry. I mean, it's crazy town.
No, I don't disagree. I expected a lot out of Dylan Sampson. I think what we're seeing so far is beyond what I expected. This is a guy that I was saying he deserved to be on one of the 3 teams in the SEC. I wasn't willing to say which one because I'm a Tennessee fan. That's hard, but I know for a fact he should have been on one of the 3. It turns out he should have been the number 1 running back in the SEC. Yeah, he is right now in yards from scrimmage, and he's doing it all. He can catch the ball. He's really, really good in space, but he also, as Joey mentioned, can play at the line of scrimmage and get a few yards when they're not really there. He's incredibly talented. Finds the end zone. Love that. Going into what's interesting about Tennessee of late is they've had a lot of great running backs. Mentioned Alvin Kamara. Production didn't quite match it for reasons not entirely to do with him. Did miss some games due to injury there his junior year or senior year. And then in that same vein, and I this is my rebuttal to all the Alvin Kamara. I say he was not necessarily underutilized. I think he was misused. I would have loved to see a backfield with Josh Dobbs, Jalen Hurd, and Alvin Kamara. I mean, make a defense line up for it, and we never did. And Jalen Hurd would have been Tennessee's all-time leading rusher if he stayed. There's zero doubt about it. So incredibly talented. His production kind of matched it, but he's not the guy I would go to. I would go much, much farther back and say he's the best talented back since 2007, Arian Foster. 1,100 yards rushing 350 receiving. Just look this up, by the way. This is hitting off the top. 12 touchdowns. And a lot of people will point to and say he fumbled a lot. I think he fumbled twice that year. One was against Penn State in the Outback Bowl inside the 3-yard line. So a very upsetting fumble for sure, but he didn't fumble that much. Great back production matched it. It all helps. He had Eric Ainge to throw the ball and stretch the field. He had an offensive line that was really solid and a lot of maturity there, a lot of veterans. Dylan Sampson is a great back. He's also benefiting from talent around him and veterans around him for sure.
I mean, the other part too, though, is, and I wrote about this today in a column for TBL Tennessee, was just, I think what was going to make Nico's Heisman candidacy so complicated, because he's the fourth best odds coming into this game, is that Sampson's been the story through 3 weeks. Like, it's going to be really hard. I guess Alabama kind of was this, where it's kind of funny. I'm blanking on his name. Devontae Smith. Does he win the Heisman if Jalen Waddle does not go down against Tennessee that year?
Right.
Like, that completely changes the trajectory of that season for him in Alabama. They still win the title and everything else. But I look at this situation with Tennessee, and through 3 weeks, I mean, the story has been Tennessee just running all over their competition. And Nico's just not had to do anything. He hasn't had to throw 30-plus balls in all 4 of his starts to this point at Tennessee. His biggest game, he threw his first 2 picks. Nico's been good. Nico has had some wow throws, but the story has still been, I mean, Deshaun Bishop was, I think, what was he, 17 yards a carry last Saturday? Like, Deshaun Bishop had 2 big yard touchdowns.
Right now.
Yeah, it's just bonkers. Like, Deshaun Bishop Tennessee hasn't missed a beat without Cam Seldon, with Bishop at RB2. So I think that's one of the more interesting parts of this going into this week, is that Dylan Sampson's been the best player for Tennessee on offense through the first 3 weeks, even if Nico's ceiling is obviously the highest and they need Nico to be the best player for them to ultimately get where they want to go. But it's still, he's new. Like, he's 4 starts. Dylan Sampson, he's got a lot of years in the system now as a true junior. He's gotten a lot of reps and he's just ready to go. But I look at Saturday as a potential Heisman type moment for Nico, not just because all eyeballs are going to be on Nico in this game, but I think Oklahoma, they're right now at 22 in rush defense in college football. Caleb, do you think if Oklahoma is able to be the first team to stop, not even really stop, because I think Tennessee's still going to get theirs, but to really limit the Vols running game, do you think UT has the horses out wide, along with this offensive line, who was kind of shaky in pass pro on Saturday? That was one of the unwritten parts of what we saw on Saturday. It's just pass pro has not been exactly what I want it to be through 3 weeks. Nico's taken a lot of hits. Do you think they, along with the pass pro, are going to be able to win a game where Nico has to throw potentially 40-plus times on the road? Because I went back and looked at Hendon Hooker in 2022. Like, he threw 42 times against South Carolina. He threw 30-plus times against Georgia. He almost threw 30 against Florida, over 30 against Alabama. Just, if they're going to win one of these big games, it's a combination of him having to throw 30-plus times, and he has to take off. Like, they had Hooker against Georgia and Bama alone in 2022 had 32 carries. And Hooker carried the ball himself 32 times in those 2 big games.
Right.
So I think Nico and this offense and what the history suggests here, I mean, Joe obviously lowering his shoulder at Bama, and he started doing some option stuff and just lowering his, like, he had to be big on the road, and he was in the first half, and really was the story in Tuscaloosa that first half. But do you think they have the horses out wide, and this offensive line is going to be able to hold up enough in pass pro to win a game if Nico has to throw 35, 40 times?
Right. In Tennessee, their ability and their just how successful they are in the run game, it invites teams to load the box up. You also have a Tennessee passing game that you really got to get to the quarterback fast. Guys get open fast. If you look at the Alabama 2022 game when Jalen Hyatt was open, I think there was one deep ball, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Everything else was quick game, and he was open, utilizing wide splits, pre-snap movement sometimes. So it invites that in, and I think that makes it tough on pass protection. But you're right. I said that I hadn't gone back and watched the game, but I remember in real time thinking Kent State's getting pressure.
Yeah.
Now that could have been they were blitzing 8 for all I knew, but I just knew they were. So I mean, I think it's certainly a question mark. I think when you look at NC State game though, they got pressure. One that definitely caused the interception. The other, I thought it was pressure in real time, went back and watched it, and I was like, no, he definitely could have ate that. Might have even been able to get out of the pocket and get some yards. So I think this is a game that Nico's just got to be level-headed in that regard. I think the pass protection is still really solid. Sure, I would like to see some better stuff, but I think Nico can help them out. That's a quarterback's job, whether it be pre-snap or in the play. That's a quarterback's job, and he's got to do a better job of that. As far as on the horses, do they have the horses outside? I think I said this the first time I was on here, and I still believe it. No one's convinced me otherwise. If Brew McCoy is in the Alabama 2023 game, Tennessee probably wins that in the second half. He is your go-to guy when you need a catch. He's your go-to guy when kind of all else fails. I've just got to get this in the general vicinity of a wide receiver and let him go make a play. And Tennessee didn't have that in 2023 when he went down. Now we haven't seen a ton of that this season because we haven't needed it. So kind of is Brew McCoy still super physical with that, cutting a ton of weight? Seems like it, but we'll kind of find out about that. But I also think Tennessee still has a ton of speed outside, which is a good balance in that regard. It's going to be a good kind of cat and mouse game of how Oklahoma attacks. But I think you're also looking at a Tennessee run offense that's never been this good.
Yeah.
Going too deep, especially.
Joe, do you agree with Caleb there?
Yeah, I mean, especially when Caleb, you're talking about, I mean, against Houston, Tulane, Oklahoma was having to bunch the box to be able to stop the run. And against Tennessee, that might slow us down a little bit. But if you commit that many people to the run defense, I mean, Heupel's going to spread you out across the entire field. And it might work at first in the first quarter at slowing us down. But I think 4 quarters long, I don't think you're going to be able to keep them suppressed that long. I still think, again, it might take a huge chunk out, and Tennessee has to adapt and make it work. But I think overall, if it comes down to a race, Tennessee's going to be able to adapt better. And, you know, if that's Oklahoma's only ability is being able to have that option to stop the run, is bunching that many in the box, I don't see how Tennessee doesn't figure that out and at least adapt to it. I think it'll be enough.
I guess
this
is
go
ahead. Gabe.
I was going to say, this is an Oklahoma team too, talking about that defensive line, and they definitely are threatening. I think they have 11.5. I was trying to get the stat for sure. I think it's 11.5 sacks so far this season. And it's not just one guy. So it's not that Tennessee can key in and focus on one person to try to really limit, shade to his side, get tight end or running back help. So it is similar, maybe not in the same vein that Tennessee has it. Like, I don't think Oklahoma's rolling 8 deep, 9 deep out there on the defensive line. But it is certainly a unit that's strong. It's not just one guy that's like, hey, you stop this guy, you're good. And so I think that makes it challenging for sure. I don't think
DJ Terry in the middle.
Oh, I don't know if I realized that. I can't keep up with all this.
It's a lot of movement.
All this
it's a lot of moving parts.
Because did he go there directly from Tennessee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been there 2 years now. He left last year.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that. No, I've pretty much given up on that. It did make Kent State more fun when there were guys rolling in there. I didn't realize they were still here. I kind of assumed they transferred. Or who is that guy? Wait, he played there last year. That was fun. That made that more interesting.
We could do that. Where are they now? With some Tennessee balls right now. I mean, right now. Where is Brandon Turnage, Caleb?
Was he Was he Louisville? Or was he Ole Miss?
He's Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Starting corner.
I knew he went with Tyler Barron, but I couldn't remember which stop he was.
A little bit. Yeah.
Let me tell you how shocking it was to see Tyler Barron making a sack in the swamp. I didn't know. I knew he wasn't at Louisville. I just didn't know where he was at.
Tyler Barron,
and then he's making plays in the swamp.
He's gonna make plays like Tyler Barron, but also Tennessee's just got guys that can rotate. Like Tyree West has made the jump, and it's just one of those where Tennessee, like I think his ceiling is still the highest of anyone on that strong side defensive end this year. But I think the being able to rotate as much as Tennessee is a strong side defensive end. I think it's more than fine. Through 3 weeks, I don't think Tennessee's defensive line's like, whoa,
No.
whoa,
And-
we're missing a body here.
And this isn't Tyler Barron's fault, but
Yeah.
I'm really glad to have him off our team because he was the most holdable player in college football. And he never got the call.
The Alabama game especially stands out last year. Tyler Barron was like active. Like I think there was one shot. I remember he was like trying to like get in the. I feel like he was trying to show the official. And there's like a picture. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Where he's just getting pulled and he's like, "Look, I think it was the Alabama game last year, but I remember the Alabama game was especially egregious officiating wise, especially in the second half. And you talk about like winning that game if Bruce there. I think Tennessee wins that game if they convert one touchdown in the red zone in that.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
If they're up 3 touchdowns, I don't think Bama has the juice to come out of the second half, all guns blazing, going deep, first play, that kind of thing. I think it's pretty somber going to that locker room where it's like, oh, we're not coming back from 3 touchdowns down at home. Like, I think it's just a different feeling heading to the back instead of just a 2-score game.
Well, and kind of going back into that too, the 3 games you mentioned when Tennessee threw the football a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg in that scenario, but Tennessee is a run first football team.
Yeah.
I mean, that is absolutely their identity. I know that college coaches don't believe what a lot of these media people think when they're thinking throw it all over the yard, the $8 million quarter, like all that. I wish they would go into film thinking that Tennessee would probably win a lot more football games because they wouldn't know how to stop the run in that scenario. But Tennessee's a run first football team. And I know Georgia in 2022, it felt like we got away. And that's a good defensive line. It's hard to just run it into the heart of their team over and over and over again and get stopped. But, similar to remember the Titans, like you just got to keep running the football. It's like Novocaine, give it time. It'll always work. This is a run first football team and Josh Heupel's got to stay committed to that too. Not saying don't throw the football more than you have this year, but don't change who you are if you go down or if you had a series you didn't like. Because it does feel like in some of the games that's happened.
Yeah. Final thing here, Joe. The story coming out of this game against Oklahoma on Sunday will be what?
Oh man. Overall storyline. Ideally, if it's obviously how it works out for Tennessee, I hope that it's that. Well, okay, obviously a general story is, okay, Tennessee's as legit as we thought. That is ideal. Tennessee goes and takes care of business in Norman, and everyone's like, okay, now they've played an opponent. Now we can start talking about them as realistic and not frauds and everything. I would like the story to be that we ended up dominating on defense again. I think our front seven, the defensive line, I mean, Oklahoma's allowed 9 sacks against Houston, Temple, and Tulane. Like, not great. I hope it's a dominant defensive performance for us, and it's win by, more than 2 scores. And it's kind of just like, all right, Tennessee is a real contender.
I think if they win by more than 2 scores, you get a bye, go to Arkansas. And barring any significant injuries, I think that I feel comfortable saying they clinch a CFP berth, because then you're looking at all your home games outside of Georgia. Like, you're going to be favored. I think they will be favored against Bama at home by that point. They're obviously going to be huge home favorites against Florida by that point. This was just a very away heavy schedule. It was kind of weird and wonky in that way. If Georgia's your only big road 50-50 type deal, like, I would rather get Georgia on the road because it's less winnable anyway. I'd rather not burn a home game for Georgia. Like, it's just, if you get them on the road, awesome. It's a double win. You have a situation where you send the Georgia crowd home unhappy, and you also steal one against a team that you just have not been able to really, outside of everybody else in the SEC, really compete with for 4 quarters. Like, that'd be huge. But like, getting Florida and Bama, if you're undefeated going to those games, like, Tennessee's going to be at least 10 wins. Like, minimum.
Yeah, I
10.
think so.
And that's enough to get in. Like, Tennessee is going to get in as a 10+ win team. So you win this. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I don't know. I feel pretty comfortable saying that they're a playoff team if they win this game.
This is a big. I'm talking about those check boxes to are they a great team and going down that list. When you talk about, and I've said it, I think a question for Heupel. I don't know what it is about night games on the road, but that's a big.
Yeah.
I don't know, go play mini golf during the day. Don't sit around the hotel room. And whatever you've been doing, don't do it. Fly in that day if we need to. I don't know what the answer is at this point, but this is a big check mark of how focused, how good is this football team? Can they win what's going to be a hostile environment against a good opponent? I think Oklahoma has a lot of questions on and where they're going to stand the rest of the season, but it's a good opponent. So that's a big, that'll be a big, this is the big determining factor, not just because it's a big game, but it's on the road. You are favored. It's at night. This is a good tone setter, and talking about the favorable schedule. I don't know how we got so lucky to have this, because I think this Oklahoma team is very, very beatable. This is your first true road game. It's going to be at night on College game. Like this could end up being a dream. I hope it is, and not a nightmare.
The one thing that worries me about this game, and I still think 9 times out of 10 Tennessee wins, is just Jackson Arnold leads Oklahoma in rushing right now. And I've seen this movie before with rushing quarterbacks who are effective rushing quarterbacks against Tennessee. Can
I tell you my storyline?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
My storyline is that Jackson Arnold will not have the same hype around his people are already started talking about the fizzle. Yeah. This Tennessee defensive line, this is one of the few things I can throw this battered Vol syndrome out on, because I'm with you. But I look at this defensive line. You have a guy like Amari Thomas that can run quarterbacks down in the flat. You have James Pierce Jr. coming off the edge. Okay, you beat him. There's Tyree West. There's Joshua Josephs. There's Omar Norman Lott. And then you have Elijah Simmons, who is just a massive human being, no other way to describe him, that can
Bryson Eason doesn't even need a face mask.
Right. I mean, it's bananas how good this defensive line is. He's going to get a fair share. He's probably going to be their leading rusher because this Tennessee defensive line is so good. I don't think it's a guy that's going to wreak havoc all day. I think the storyline is going to be this Tennessee defensive line absolutely limited Jackson.
I can't handle another Emory Jones situation on the road. I can't.
No, that would be tough.
That was demoralizing. I can't do that again.
And I think also I'm giving a ton of credit to the defensive line. Arian Carter, Keenan Peely, Jeremiah Thielander, they will get beat in quick pass, dumb stuff before they let a quarterback run. I mean, they're too fast. They want to fly to the football. They want to take heads off. One of them will get ejected before Jackson Arnold has a day on us.
I mean, Jacoby Thomas setting the precedent. You see Jacoby in space, just slide. Just go down. Jacoby Thomas is fearless when it comes to hitting dudes. I mean, that guy through 3 weeks, he plays physical. Idris Farouk, physical dude. I'm excited about Idris Farouk too, but Tennessee hits hard, man. Like, this is the hardest hitting Tennessee defense in a long time. They tackle well. Jermon McCoy was good in space these last few weeks. He's been one of the best corners in the SEC through 3 weeks. Like, there's just, it's just so funny because if you just did not know the history of Tennessee and it wasn't Tennessee on the side of the helmet, you would go, why are people? Yeah, of course the line's 7.5. It should be like 10.5. Like, Tennessee should roll this team. Like, it just, everything about this game screams Tennessee should win comfortably, like NC State in a lot of ways. And we just, I think, have to see it. And if you can get to this point where I think Tennessee wins big, then Nico is probably firmly in that top 3 Heisman conversation. Tennessee's feeling really good for CFP. It just sets the tone. And it also gives you that buffer where you don't feel like you have to sweep at home. Like, obviously, Heupel's only lost one home game the last 2 years, that being Georgia last year. But that buffer is so important. You can play a lot freer at Florida or against Florida. You can play a lot freer against Alabama in back-to-back weeks. Mississippi State at home, this, that, and the other. Like Kentucky, like, you will be able to play a lot freer because you took care of business early in the year. Like, just go ahead and bank these wins, and then you just feel so much better on these big-time home games the rest of the way. Okay, final predictions here, and let's get out of here. Caleb, your final score prediction for Saturday is what?
I'm sticking with it. You talked about how this is kind of similar to NC State, and I think this is like lower scoring game than what we saw against NC State. I think Tennessee's offense will look less impressive than they did against NC State, but not in scoring wise, I should say. I think Josh Heupel called a really good game. I think they had 1 3 and out. That's another thing I need to add on to storyline. If Tennessee loses this football game, we will be infuriated at the amount of 3-and-outs. I promise.
Hmm.
That's the big. Can Oklahoma's defense get off the field fast? That's how they win it. And even then, maybe it doesn't matter because Tennessee's so deep in the trenches, but that'll be how they do it. But I have Tennessee in the 31 range. I'll say 31 for this. I think it could be up to 35. It could just be those 5 touchdowns. I have Oklahoma only scoring 3 touchdowns. I think Jackson
all
Arnold,
offensive.
Yes, I don't think their defense gets. This is not a. I think Nico is going to be. I think he'll miss throws before he does what he did against NC State. Like he'll just bail before he does that. He just seems like a guy that responds really well so far. So until I see otherwise, but I think again going into field position, this will be I think Oklahoma's defense is good enough that you'll see a 3-and-out or 2. Field position will play a big part in this game. Jackson Ross, if he punts it right-footed, we're screwed. But yeah, I think Oklahoma gets in the 21 range. It could be a late touchdown to make it look closer than it is. I think this is very similar to NC State. Tennessee wins by 2 or 3 scores. How that lines up with, is it a Tennessee touchdown late to get to 3 scores, make it look worse than it is, or is it a Oklahoma's late touchdown to score and make it look closer than it was? I think it's going to be one of those things, 2 or 3 score game, but I've got 31-21 at the moment.
I love it. Joe, what about you?
Man, I think Tennessee's going to start a little bit slow. Caleb, I think you're right with those 3-and-outs. I do think with Oklahoma having some of the biggest defensive linemen in the SEC across their entire line, it will be a little slow, and people are going to be like, uh-oh, what's happening? And then we'll adapt. We're good. We've got it. So I've got Tennessee scoring 37, and then I've got Oklahoma scoring 20 because I think that they get their last touchdown in the third quarter, and they need to go for 2 because they're, I don't know, just feeling weird about it. So a failed 2-point conversion, 37-20. Chalk it.
Okay. I like it. I'm still going to stick 45. I'm going to say 45-17. I just don't think they get multiple touchdowns. I don't think 3. This defense is just too good. I don't think this can be. I think this is another defensive statement where Jackson Arnold's in hell.
I won't be shocked if we're talking next week on here and going, Tennessee's defense still hasn't given up a touchdown. I won't be shocked by that.
Yeah. A lot of field goals potentially in this one. They drive down the field and then they get stuff. I mean, Banks has been elite at that too. It's just not giving up touchdowns in the red zone.
I shared this on the podcast on Sunday.
Yeah.
Tennessee's defense is it plus? I believe they're plus 3 right now in the season. They have scored 9 points and only had 6 points scored on them.
I mean, it's crazy.
I don't care who you play. That's an insane stat.
And they're not even really close.
Through 3 games.
Like it's not even close. Like it's kind of Tim Banks just, I mean, that the whole staff, William Inge, also the best press conference coach at Tennessee ever, potentially. Like he should be talking every week. William Inge is fantastic. Best personality hire. Also great coach, but I highly encourage folks. I understand they can be pretty mundane weekly. William Inge is must-see television. William Inge needs a podcast. I need to get William Inge a spot here too. You're welcome anytime, Coach Inge. All right, guys. Well, Caleb, Joe, what can the good folks check out? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask a question real quick.
Yeah.
You seem to be smarter than I am. I'm sorry if I'm assuming incorrectly, but much more intelligent than myself.
I don't know about that.
Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma, why are they OU and not UO?
It's a good question.
That seems really wrong.
It is legitimately backwards. I guess because UO there already is Oregon, and it would be confusing on the helmets back then. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. You got the UO on the yellow old Achilles Smith Ducks helmets from back in the day. Would it be confusing to have 2 UOs? I don't know.
I would just change my university name though, because OU does sound better. But I would just
100%.
Oklahoma University because I just think it's really dumb.
I know there's like different rules. Like for undergrad, I went to North Georgia, and they've gradually evolved, and now they're the University of North Georgia. Like it's based on size, so you're a college at a certain size, and then you're a university at a certain size, so you gradually move up. I mean, there's a school back in Georgia a lot of people will go to, Georgia College and State University. Like they could throw a lot of different word salad in there for these universities, but that's a good. I had never thought about OU.
I never thought about it either until I saw an Oklahoma fan complaining about getting called Oklahoma University, and I thought that's a very easy mistake to make.
It is,
by the way,
but not USC. I've seen some USC this fall. Like South Carolina played well, but we're not writing USC. I'm not doing that. It's SCAR until the end of time. They are SCAR. They are not USC.
I like USC Junior too. I like that one.
That's
but it's
tough,
like
man.
I go by my middle name. My middle name's Caleb. It'd be like me getting mad that someone assumed my first name was Caleb because I go by it. That's insane.
Exactly.
So I was just curious if there was. I've asked some people and everyone's gone, I don't know, and I'm thinking there's got to be a reason, but it might be as simple as somebody a long time ago was very dumb. I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine if you ask the OU folks, it's. Did y'all ever watch The Departed?
I haven't.
Oh,
I have watched clips on TikTok. Wait, no. Oh, The Departed. I have watched The Departed. Sorry. What was I thinking of? I was thinking of the Leonardo DiCaprio Shutter Island. I don't know why I was thinking of Shutter Island.
Bad movie.
I need to
Shutter Island, not worth your time. Didn't love Shutter Island.
Dang, the synopsis seems good too.
It's really long. It's not really worth the payoff. I'm a big Leo guy. Like Catch Me If You Can's a banger. Departed's a banger. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like there's all kinds of great Leo movies that folks can jump into. I would not recommend Shutter Island though, but The Departed, like Mark Wahlberg's character in there, he's like, maybe I do, or maybe you can go look. And that's like how it is. It's like if someone comes at them for why it's OU and UO, it's like maybe that's what I would imagine the pushback would be like. Who cares? Like we can do whatever we want. I don't know. Texas is doing the whole thing with UT versus UT with Texas.
They get offended if you call them TU, by the way. So if you want to throw that at them.
Also, I'm very grateful Tennessee did not draw Texas this year and drew Oklahoma. Much better situation for Tennessee this year. Joe, Caleb, what can go check out from you guys over at More Important Issues this week?
This week, Thursday, we are we'll be live in the Fan Run Studios. It'll be 8 to 10. Sorry, it's been a heck of a week. We're having Adam Sparks on. I haven't got to read the article yet. He wrote an article on Heupel's return to Oklahoma. I know that's a lot of the hype of this week, which I think makes these games more fun. The stuff around it. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that. And then that's pretty much it for the rest of this week until we jump back into things on Sunday. We'll recap Oklahoma, all that fun stuff. But you can go follow us on Twitter, get some stuff there. And I'm sure you can find I will not subject anyone to go to my Twitter, but if you'd like to, you can find it. Don't work too hard though, please.
No, there you go. Joe, thank you for joining us as well. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, man. Thanks for having me. Like Caleb said, we'll be live tomorrow, 8 to 10. You can listen on Fan Run Radio or Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, anywhere you can find podcasts and such. And like I said, appreciate you having me on, Chase.
Absolutely. Go check them out tomorrow night and every night on the podcast. They put out all kinds of great content. Go visit the tailgate. Support More Important Issues any way you can. Joe, Caleb, thank you so much for the time, and I'll talk to y'all again next week.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.